Hey, it feels like everyone knows someone who's on Ozempic or Manjaro and that's losing some serious weight. I mean, 20, 30, 50 pounds of weight. It's really impressive. But what actually is happening underneath? Today, I'm not here to bash GLP-1s, but I just want to understand them. So let's talk about it. All right, everyone, welcome back. My name is Tiran and I'm your host, and we are actually in a different location. So actually, we have a home office that we've kind of converted into a studio for, podcasts like this. Me and my wife do another podcast that is related to our religious beliefs, and that's called LDS True Living. But that's another topic. So that's the reason why this has changed. But I am really excited to talk with you guys today, give you a quick little update on how things are going with the clubs. Really, everything's okay. I will say, and this kind of leads to what we're going to discuss today, is that we are feeling the effects of some industry movements that are taking place. One is obviously with the war that's taking place out in the Middle East. That certainly is causing a lot of uneasiness in the market, and you're having a lot of companies laying people off, and we certainly are hearing and seeing the effects of that. And that's natural when it comes to the gym industry. When the economy starts to wane, then people start to back off on a lot of their discretionary spending. And this is really across the board, not just the fitness industry, but really all industries are feeling the impact of this. So we still hope that this will turn around. We hope that the war will end quickly and then we can get back to normal living, and that those servicemen and women are safe. Definitely, this is trying times, and just hope that all the families out there that have lost loved ones, that they know that you're in our thoughts and prayers, and we hope that those that are out there on the front lines will be able to come home soon. So when it comes to the other factors that are impacting this fitness market, we do see, or at least we believe, that there is an impact coming from the GLP market. And so as many of you are aware now, GLPs are these weight loss medications that are being both prescribed and also being acquired, let's say on the black market or acquired online. And this is creating an idea that maybe going to the gym is not as necessary, and that I can lose weight without having to actually work really hard for it. Now, I'm not saying that it's easy to be on a GLP-1. It's not easy. However, we do see that it may be creating some excuses for not taking care of people's bodies in maybe a more traditional way, as far as staying active and watching what they eat, making sure they're getting good nutrition in their bodies. All right, so I just wanted to talk about the GLP-1 topic. I just wanted to go over some things. I've got my notes here, and I'm excited to share with you guys what is a GLP. What does it do? What does it do well? And what are some of the side effects? And I think now that we've got quite a lot of people that are using GLP-1s, now we have some good data that we can rely on to see kind of what are the positives and what are the negatives. And then this should be something that, as a licensed, let's say, a physician or a dietitian or somebody is advising to get onto these types of medications or these drugs, that they're able to disclose, hey, these are the pros and cons, and this is what you need to be doing, and that this is not just simply a weight loss miracle, but there are some real side effects that you have to be aware of. And so I just want to go through this. All right, so first of all, what does a GLP actually stand for? Well, like any acronym that's related to anything medical, it's something that's really hard to pronounce, although this one's not too bad. It's a glucagon or glucon-like peptide. So the GLP is glucagon-like peptide 1. So it is an actual peptide, and this is actually a naturally occurring in our body. So we actually produced GLP, although this is something that we are receiving externally, and to help facilitate what this particular peptide does in our body, and so that is having an impact on us, because we're basically manufacturing externally the effects of this if our body is not doing it as much as we might like. Now, some of the things that it does, one thing is that it regulates hunger. So it really, in fact, shuts down the appetite or the appeal for food. And that, of course, when you don't have that draw towards the food, it's easier to stay away from it. The other thing it does is it slows down digestion. And what that means, Mira is jumping into the camera. She does this on her other podcast all the time as well. She's actually the star of that podcast. So you might see her come in and out of this picture, but don't mind, she's cute. But anyway, it slows digestion. And the way it does is basically once the food enters the small intestine, this peptide goes ahead. Obviously, it shuts down or slows down the hormone of insulin. It also then tells the body, the digestive system, to slow down and don't digest that food as quickly as you might. So it stays in the gut longer. And so these are some of the side effects. So regulates hunger, slows digestion, and really helps to manage insulin. And we've talked about in other podcasts how influential insulin is in fat storage. So if we can keep the insulin down, regulate that hormone, then we can really, really manage the amount of weight we might gain. All right, so some of the very common GLP-1 products that are out there, you've got Ozempic, that's probably the most popular one. That really is hitting one particular peptide. You've got Wegovy and Mounjaro. These start to create blends where they're hitting multiple peptides within the digestive system, and so you get some other effects that come along with some of these other brands. And so those are the main ones on the market. Now, there's a lot of others that are sort of spin-offs or their own labeling, and they kind of create their own compounds and stuff, and that's how they are able to get into the market. So that's what a GLP-1 is. Let me go ahead and switch this over. Now, we talked a bit about why they work. Now I want to talk about some of the negative impacts that can come with what is effectively an external way for you to be able to curb your appetite, to slow digestion. And actually, it really does work. And we know this because it has become super popular. I think everyone that's watching this knows at least one person, or you yourself might actually be on a GLP-1, and you know the impact it has. You absolutely will lose weight with this. I mean, this drug was originally intended for diabetes, but this, of course, has sort of outpaced that reason, and now it's become very mainstream. And so when it comes to what are the side effects of this, sort of some of the immediate side effects that come along with this is that you're going to have, in the short term, you're going to have some digestive issues because, again, it's holding that food in the small intestine longer. And so naturally there's going to be gases, there's going to be some discomfort, bloating. These types of things are very common, and it's just uncomfortable. You often will feel like nausea because of it, and this is really, really uncomfortable. The other thing is that it also kind of, I've known some people that talk about it having some tingling feelings in some of their extremities, like their legs and arms and stuff. And that also is a bit annoying for people who are on it. But the big one is nausea, fatigue, and really GI issues. So these are the ones that you're going to immediately feel. Okay. Now that doesn't conclude all of them. What we see sort of long term is that because we have reduced the amount of calorie intake, specifically we've really reduced the amount of protein. Because remember, the thing about protein is often when we're taking in protein, it's in the form of chicken and steak and these types of proteins, and that is hard to digest. That takes longer to digest. So those foods actually really, really sit in that small intestine for a long time because it has to break down and it just moves slower. And so we really start to stay away from a lot of those really difficult digesting foods. They just aren't appetizing, and we just don't feel comfortable at all with them. And so we stay away from them. And so the byproduct of this lack of protein and this lack of hunger is that we just lose weight, but not just fat. You end up metabolizing and sort of eating up your own muscle, because if you're not using the muscle, your body will discard it. And the way it does that is through metabolizing it. It'll actually turn it into energy or into glycogen so that your body can survive, because you are effectively in a calorie deficit when you're not eating like this, and you're basically starving yourself. And so your body is going to take from whatever sources it may have. So it's going to take it from the fat storage, no doubt, but it's also going to be moving it from those muscles, because it takes a lot to sustain muscle. And so to help the body survive, it's going to just say, hey, look, you're not exercising like you were. You're not getting the calorie intake like you were. So let's get this heavy muscle off of our frame, and that'll just make it easier for us to survive. So it'll metabolize that muscle. And so we see a lot of people with like the Ozempic face. We see them really frail. I've seen with some of my clients, like there's actually ends up being some risk to osteoporosis and bone density issues. You're just not getting the same nutrients in the system. And so your body really starts to just kind of eat itself. And this is the part that you really, really, really have to be mindful of, is that if you're not getting your nutrition in your body, you have to sort of back off on a lot of other activities for fear that you might break something, or just that you're just not able to sustain whatever the activities are. And I see this a lot in my clients that are on GLP-1s. They simply just don't have the same energy like they used to. And so these are some of the things. So we've got the short-term side effects, we've got the muscle loss, we've got some nutritional gaps that create this bone density issue. You've got digestive issues, and there's some studies now that are starting to correlate the GLP-1s with some actual chronic illnesses, specifically with the GI tract, the pancreas, just different areas that are dealing with the endocrine systems and such, that are starting to be overworked or under they're not getting the nutrients that they need to function properly, so they start breaking down. So there's studies that are starting to see these kinds of effects by way of GLP-1. So, and we haven't really seen, like, what is the long-term effect? Are there other areas that we might start to see let's say different manifestations of cancer, pancreatic cancer? Now, I'm not saying that that's the case. I'm just saying that these are areas that now they're starting to really monitor. Excuse me. But the one I really wanted to focus on, because I think everybody is fully aware of the muscle situation, also the nutritional gaps and the issue with osteoporosis or with bone density issues, but it's this one right here, the psychological dependence. Now, these GLP-1s are not, they're not defined as being physically addictive in any way. However, they are psychologically addictive. And this is now becoming more apparent when we see really, really thin people who have been on a GLP-1 that simply feel like they just can't get off of it. That if they get off of it, they're going to gain weight again. And when they gain weight again, that rebound effect, they're really, really scared of that. And so you become really dependent on this drug, because you know that, hey, I couldn't do it without the drug. The only way I was able to do it was with the drug. If I get off the drug, I know I'm not going to have the willpower to stay off it once the hungers start to come back. And that's the part that is really, really scary, because now we're starting to see what is effect sort of body dysmorphia now being amplified by way of an external product like GLP-1s. We have people that are really, really frail and that simply can't, from a psychological perspective, get away from that. And who knows what other eating disorders might be a byproduct if, let's say, for some reason, all of a sudden there is a study out there, or there's enough conclusive evidence that GLP-1s do more damage than good, or that it's starting to offset the people's desire to actually get on it like they are right now. People are starting to pause, or they're starting to say, I really don't want to run that risk. I think I'm going to get off of it. And so once they start to get off of GLP-1s, then they start looking for other ways to keep the weight off. And then you start to look at what sort of eating disorders might come along with that. You've got anorexia, you've got bulimia, you've got a whole host of problems that can come after it that are psychologically related, right? Bulimia and anorexia, these are topics that are rooted in our perception of ourselves and what we look like. And that kind of a thing is can be very dark, and really may require having a professional actually work with those people to sort of help them accept who they are, whatever size their body may be, as they start to put on more weight. And so that is where we are. And this is really particularly dangerous with younger folks, right? That are influenced very heavily by social media. That's why they end up getting on these peptides. And I mean, I know people that have in their refrigerator, they literally have thousands of dollars worth of this. They just have it lined up right in their refrigerator. And because they're just simply like, hey, I have to be on it. And I've got the money, so I'm going to spend it on it. And you see this is becoming very rampant within the U.S. I'm not as familiar with how it is around the world, but in the U.S. it has definitely become something that I think we're going to have some negative ramifications. Now, what do we do about this? Because it's one thing for me to sit here and say, oh, well, it's all bad, or it's good, but the side effects are just bad. So bad. You should get off of it. No, I think there are ways that you can be on a GLP-1, but also being able to maintain, or at least to be able to slow down the muscle loss, and being able to be smart about your diet to make sure you're getting the type of nutrients you need. And so some things that I would recommend to couple with a GLP-1 would be, one is that you would want to make sure you're exercising 3 to 4 times a week. All right. Now, what this will do is this will tell the body that, hey, there is a stress being placed on me through physical exercise that I need to still maintain. And so instead of metabolizing the muscle that the body may think is not necessary, because you're making it necessary, the body will be like, hey, I need that. I can't metabolize that. Let me go after the fat storage as opposed to the muscle mass. Now, the hurdle that you're going to have with that is that you're just not going to feel very good because of the digestive issues, right? You're just going to feel uncomfortable. And going into the gym and working out when you have a tummy ache is not fun at all. I mean, shoot, most people don't like going to the gym when everything's fine. And so this is definitely going to be a challenge for you. But you have to think of it, it's like, hey, if I'm going to be on a GLP-1, I have to do these other things, or else I run the risk of really hurting my body physically, and also running the risk that I get into psychological dangers once I get the weight down and I need to actually stop using it. All right, the other thing is to really keep your protein high. Maybe stay away from hard digesting proteins like heavy steaks with lots of fats and stuff. Maybe stick to leaner meats like fish and protein powders and eggs and such, stuff that just isn't that hard for the body to break down. This would be a great alternatives to be able to do that. Another thing would be for you to really track yourself. Like when you're in the gym and you're lifting weight, really see am I getting weaker? Am I really getting weaker? And is this a path that I want to continue? And then maybe it's also worth it for you to seek out some help within the gym to see like, hey, I'm on this GLP-1. I think I may want to start to transition off. What sort of things can I do in order to be able to maintain my weight loss, be able to build up the strength, and be able to just continue a healthy lifestyle now that I got the body fat off? And that's where we can help you as a staff to be able to develop a plan to be able to help you transition from a GLP-1 into sort of a healthy eating style and a healthy fitness routine to be able to get you to your goals. And so that's something that I would say would be advisable for anybody that's looking to try to transition off. All right, so just in closing, GLP-1s are super powerful. They are effective, but it really does depend on how you use it. And so I'd encourage you guys to seek out some help, do your research, be aware of what you're getting into if you're thinking about getting on a GLP-1, and then really put together a plan, a holistic plan on how you can get on a GLP-1, lose the body fat without sacrificing so much in order for you to be able to reach your goals. All right. So that's what I wanted to share with you today about GLP-1s. I hope this helps. If it does, please subscribe to us. I mean, we're putting out this kind of content every week. Share it with your friends. If you know someone that's on a GLP-1 and you're a little concerned and worried about them, share this with them. Say, hey, maybe you should check this out. Maybe there's something that Tiran and the guys over at Anytime Fitness can help you out with to be able to help create this holistic, comprehensive plan for you. All right. So until next time, guys, I'm really looking forward to hearing your comments and your viewpoints below. Maybe some of you guys have had some experiences with this. Really would like to hear what you have to say. So we'll see you guys in about 7 days. All right. Have a great week. Enjoy the weather. Bye-bye.